Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to section 12.1, Samples and Studies. This is the first section of the last chapter in the book that we're going to cover. With that being said, we're going to jump around a little bit, so these numbers up at the top of the page might not fit together, but stay patient with me and it will all make sense in the end. So let's jump into our first vocab words. Let's start off with population. Population consists of all the members of a group of interest. So let's say we are doing a study. We're going to do a study of the school. The school, whoever goes to the school, K through 12, would be the population. Then a sample of the population is some portion of the population. So a class, right? A class would be in a sample of the population. So a class of you freshmen taking Algebra 2 would be a sample of the population. So now we are going to look at different samples that we can get. So the first one, the first kind of sample that we have is a simple random sample. It is a sample that is as likely to be chosen as any other from the population. So let's say that we are trying to get a sample of the freshmen. We pick this algebra class would be a simple random sample of you freshmen. The next one, systematic sample, is a sample in which the items in the sample are selected according to a specified time or item interval. So this kind of sample, you could have first hour, second hour, third hour. There is some specified time or interval. Here we have some people that, like to be in samples. Next, we have a self-selected sample, where members volunteer to be included in the sample. Where you volunteer, volunteering is the key word. We have a convenient sample is a sample that includes members of a population that are easily accessed. This is when you sit outside a convenience store or when you sit outside the school. Then we have a stratified sample is a sample in which the population is first divided into similar non-overlapping groups and then a simple random sample is then selected from each group. Usually there's a rule to this guy. There is a rule that will stand out to make it a stratified sample. So let's look at some of these problems. Here we have every fifth person walking out of a movie theater is asked to name their favorite type of movie. So what is the sample population? Well, the sample would be every fifth person that walks out of the movie theater because that's who we are picking. Then the population, the whole group that we are picking from, would be people walking out of the movie theater, people going to the movie. What kind of sample is this and why? It is a systematic sample because there is a rule to it. We're picking every fifth person walking out of the movie theater. Now some fun part about these samples and studies. We have biases. There can be biases in these studies, and what is a bias? A bias is an error that results in a misrepresentation of the population. That could be watching a movie theater where you go to the movie theater only goes to Star Wars, so their favorite movie is going to be Star Wars. It doesn't show all the movies, it just shows Star Wars, so therefore more people than not are going to like Star Wars. Unbiased would be a correct representation of the data. So let's look at a couple examples. Here we have the student council surveys the students in one classroom to decide the theme for the spring dance. Is this unbiased or biased? It is biased because imagine the prom committee coming in here and asking you freshmen, what theme do you want for prom? Would that be fair to the juniors and seniors? Because many of you guys don't go to prom, where the juniors and seniors do go to prom, so they might have different ideas than what you guys have. Next example, a parent association surveys parents of every fifth student to decide whether to hold a fundraiser. Now, since they are surveying parents and they have a rule to survey all the parents, this is an unbiased sample. Now we're going to get into study types. First study type is a survey, which is data are from responses given by the sample of the population. We have an observational study where members of the samples are measured or observed without being affected by the study. So you're watching them, maybe through a glass mirror, maybe through cameras. And finally, we have an experiment, which is divided into two groups. First group is the experimental group that undergoes a change, and then the control group that doesn't undergo the change. And then you compare both groups, often used in science, right? Experimental group, what was that vocab word from years ago that you probably hear in science quite a bit, is the variable, and then the control group does not undergo the change. What are some examples? Well, here we're asked to determine whether each situation describes a survey, an observational study, or experiment. Explain your reasoning. So what kind of study are we doing? A retailer wants to evaluate their performance in customer service. They contact 1,000 random customers asking if they would complete the evaluation form. This type of study is a survey because you are contacting random customers and they are filling out an evaluation form and sending it back. Part B, researchers analyze the reactions of rats to a vitamin. Well, normally when you're talking about researchers and reactions of rats, you have a variable and then you also have a control, so that would make it an experiment. And then finally, we're going to be identifying each survey question as biased or unbiased. If biased, we have to explain our reasoning. So our first survey question is, how often do you exercise? Well, it's asking us how often that we exercise. It's not asking where we exercise, or it's not implying that we don't exercise. So this one is unbiased. Next is B. Do you like basketball? If so, do you prefer watching high school, college, or professional basketball? This one is biased because it first asks us, do you like basketball? Because if we say no, we're not going to be able to answer this. So, therefore, it is biased. And ladies and gentlemen, that does it for the first section in Chapter 12, Samples and Studies. Good day.